So here we are at the finale to Season 2 of House of the Dragon. What happened? Why? How does it compare to the books? And what does it mean for the next season? Let's take a look. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. On this channel, we don't only cover House of the Dragon, we dive deep into the books of A Song of Ice and Fire and The Lord of the Rings. If you like the sound of that, welcome. And this is your regularly scheduled spoiler warning for what happens next in the books, which probably will happen next in the show. And also, this episode features visions of the future in the show and beyond, which are themselves spoilery, I guess. Anyway, you have been warned. We left off last time with Aemond discovering that Rhaenyra now has a lot of dragons. He thought himself on Vhagar pretty invincible, but now he realises that he isn't, and that unless something changes soon, King's Landing will fall. He seems to take out his anger on the coastal town of Sharp Point, home of House Bar Emmon in the books and Massey on the show. He probably justifies this to himself as a strategic move, but thousands of innocent people are killed, and when he hears of how Rhaenyra got a messenger into King's Landing, he says that all ships must be searched before they are allowed in. This will impact on food supplies to the small folk, but Aemond doesn't care. His villain arc is building. Of course, Aemond isn't the only one who realises what is about to happen. Larys has been preparing Aegon for this. Remember last episode when he was trying to hurry up Aegon's recovery because he soon wouldn't be able to rest for a while? He knew he would have to smuggle Aegon out of the capital. But Aegon takes some persuading. Can he not take power back from Aemond? As king, should he not stay? Larys's plan is to escape to Essos using the money he took from Harrenhal, let Aemond and Rhaenyra battle it out, and then, when they are spent, return and reclaim the throne. Ultimately, Aegon seems to be won over by the prospect of a good moniker. Some things don't change. Not Aegon the Magnanimous this time, but Aegon the Realm's Delight, what they used to call Rhaenyra when she was young. Talking of Rhaenyra, she now has the unenviable task of trying to manage these 3 new dragon riders she has that she knows nothing about. Adam is easy. He is loyal and seemingly committed to the training program he's been given. We don't see much of Hugh, though he seems to be taken to his new station easily. Ulf, however, is already proving a handful. After his joyride on Silverwing over King's Landing gave away whatever element of surprise Team Black might have had with their new Dragon Riders, he's already ordering the staff around rather rudely, talking back to Rhaenyra and clashing with Jace. The tension between him and Jace is worth noting. Jace, remember, thinks that his own right of succession is undermined by these new Dragon Riders, and now Ulf, unknowingly, plays into that by acting as if they were on the same level, hugging him, saying they are cut from the same cloth. One to watch. At which point, let's turn to Daemon. Rhaenyra doesn't know which way he will turn, and Simon Strong sends her a message saying he suspects treachery, because he overheard Alfred Broom suggesting that Daemon be king himself. Daemon didn't respond to that, or at least the camera panned away for what I now think is the 4th or 5th time in his storyline before we get to hear him say something that might reveal his true motivations. I understand why they want to keep the uncertainty and suspense up, but it's starting to get a bit frustrating now. Anyway, Daemon has one more spooky and magical experience in Harrenhal before Rhaenyra arrives. Alice takes him to the weirwood. As they approach the tree, you can see a small figure with what looks like horns run away. We're not told, but my guess is that this is a green man, the guardians of the Isle of Faces, the heart of the Weirwood network. If so, this is the first time we've seen one. Previously, they have just been figures of legend and old Nan stories. Alice tells him that he hadn't previously been ready, but now he is. He is open to magic, and realises that he is not the player of the game he once thought, but a mere piece on the board. And what does he see? Well, first, and most excitingly for me, Bloodraven. If you're a show-only person, you'll know him as the Three-Eyed Raven, the tree wizard that Bran meets, but he is so much more, a huge figure in the history of Targaryen rule in Westeros. We see him here seated in the Weirwood, directing events, nearly half a century before he was even born. As we often say on this channel, when in doubt, blame Bloodraven. The way weirwood trees work, it's absolutely right to expect him to be able to see through this weirwood tree into the past like this. Expect lots of tinfoil theories from me about his connection to all this in show canon and book canon too. But anyway, back to the vision. We see a battle with dead dragons, Daemon himself drowning in the waters. We've already been told that he will die there by the God's Eye Lake. The White Walkers, a connection here to Aegon's dream, so Daemon now seems fully signed up to that. The Red Comet and Dany with her newly hatched dragon eggs 170 years into the future. Rhaenyra seated upon the Iron Throne, and Helaena telling him that he knows his part in the story. More about her in a moment. So what is his part? In the behind-the-scenes mini-episode, we're told that he realises that if he continues to only think of himself, great loss will be had. But then he sees a great hope, Dany. His actions will have a role in this story. He realises that his job is to get Rhaenyra onto the Iron Throne. So let's go over to Helaena. She appears in Daemon's weirwood vision, but then Aemond arrives and tries to get her to agree to fly her dragon to try to even up the odds a bit. She responds by telling him that she saw him burning Aegon, and that Aegon will be king again, and that he will sit on a wooden throne. In the book, that's exactly what happens. Aegon becomes king again for a while, but can't climb up to the Iron Throne, so sits in a smaller wooden throne at its base. And Aemond will die drowned in the God's Eye Lake. What are we to make of all this? Well, there are potentially a lot of huge implications for how magic in the world of Ice and Fire works, and how the Targaryens interact with the wider plot of the story. To be honest, I can't unpack it all here because there is a lot. Keep an eye out for future videos, but I'll give you the highlights here. We had previously thought that the Weirwood Network and Targaryen Dragon Dreams were separate types of magic, but here Helaena appears, seemingly of her own will, in Daemon's Weirwood vision. So in show canon at least, they are now very much connected. This is a massive revelation. Second, at a slightly more meta level, what we're shown here is a world that is preordained. Our protagonists are not actually protagonists. In Alice Rivers' words, they are just pieces on the board game, being moved by greater powers. Daemon is told that although he had sought to command his own fate all his life, now he must see that he just has to do what is already planned for him to do. His fate is already sealed. He will die there. Similarly, Aemond is told that what he does now doesn't matter. His fate is sealed. We might take this as Alice and Helaena expressing their own thoughts about how the world works, but they are right. Daemon and Aemond are now locked in. Their fate is sealed. Third, I'll say it again, this puts Bloodraven at the heart of everything, not just in this vision, but at the confluence of Targaryen Dragon Dreams and Weirwood Greensight. He is the inheritor of both magics, and has a hand in guiding the fate of the continent through his whole life. Oh, and the emphasis here on Daenerys is also noticeable. Are we to now see her as the culmination of all this Targaryen prophecy? The person the Targaryens are all building towards? That she is the prince that was promised? The Targaryen who will sit on the Iron Throne, unite the Seven Kingdoms, and lead the people in defeating the White Walkers in show canon? If so, it's a bit odd, because in show canon, we've not got there in the books, of course, she doesn't ever really rule the Seven Kingdoms, or unite them, and she and her dragons don't really play a big role in ending the threat of the White Walkers. Drogon's flames were completely ineffective against the Night King. She was nowhere to be seen when the final confrontation happened. Arya landed the killing blow, and it seems to have all been planned and foreseen by Bran. And what about Jon, the person that in the books Bloodraven seems to be championing as the prince that was promised? This was a fascinating section in the show, and I am totally here for the Bloodraven centrism, but it leaves us with a lot more questions than answers. Let's hope we get a bit more in future seasons. Anyway, in the show, Daemon has taken to heart the humbling character development of the last few episodes and the revelation into the bigger story being told. And when Rhaenyra finally decides to head over to Harrenhal to see what's going on, Daemon tells her about his vision, and that the realm's only hope was with a leader who could unite the realm and Viserys chose her for that. To be fair, he could have come to that conclusion without his dream in this episode. The Riverlords made clear that they support Rhaenyra, not him, so his thoughts of being king were pretty dead, but this adds another layer to why he chose as he did. Not that we should assume that everything is back as it was in Team Black. It's easy to miss, but Daemon goes in for that forehead touch that he and Rhaenyra do as a show of intimacy or togetherness, and she turns away. Things are not as they were. Still, Rhaenyra has her army and a 7th dragon. The war is definitely turning her way. Rhaenyra does waver a bit on the next steps, though. She first thinks that the new dragons will just be a deterrent, so not using them to attack. Then Corlys spurs her into action, saying that she has to press home her advantage, and she goes a long way in the opposite direction, talking about not just attacking King's Landing, but also Old Town and Lannisport, cities with hundreds of thousands of innocent people living in them. Baelor and Hugh at least see the problem there, but Rhaenyra is given a way out by a visit from Alicent. And seriously, there appears to be a blockade of King's Landing on both sides now, and still pretty much every episode a main character has gone one way or the other undetected. Anyway, Alicent seems to have reached a new personal equilibrium after her visit to that lake. She now isn't as focused on power as she once was, and really just wants to live a quiet life with Helena and her daughter, and Rhaenyra if she wants it. Rhaenyra might have been tempted, but sees herself with a higher duty, and their personal connection now has to take second place to political concerns. Rhaenyra doesn't have to firebomb the city. With Aemon soon to be gone, Alicent will open the gates so the city can change hands without much bloodshed. Rhaenyra, however, demands Aegon's head, a son for a son. Alicent, reluctantly and almost imperceptibly, nods her agreement. She has indeed changed. What Alicent gets from the deal is that Rhaenyra will let her and her loved ones walk free, and maybe the realm could be at peace. She sacrificed Aegon for that. But let's cast our minds forward for a moment to the first episode of next season. Rhaenyra will arrive and Aegon won't be there. Larys has smuggled him out. Will Rhaenyra understand or assume that Alicent has broken her side of the agreement? The misunderstandings continue. What else happened this episode? Over in Essos, Tyland Lannister meets the Triarchy on orders from Aemond a couple of episodes ago to get them to join the war. You'll remember that there was some debate in the small council about whether they could be trusted, and they certainly seem to be pushing for a pricier deal than Tyland feels comfortable giving. He does allow them the Stepstones, though, which seems like a small prize, but as Tyland realises, that would mean the Triarchy controlling all traffic to the Narrow Sea and King's Landing from the south, so they could put punitive taxes on pretty much all imports. Tyland also has to win over their fleet commander, Shirako Lohair, a character who, it appears, has been merged with Racalio Rindoon, a piratical and mercurial character in the books. Anyway, Admiral Lohair won't sail with a man who cannot best them in a mud fight, it would appear. Thankfully, Tyland seems quite good at that, so he gets the ships. In the books, this was a whole lot simpler. Otto wrote to the Triarchy while he was still Hand of the King, offering them a lot of concessions, and after a bit of thought, they agreed and sent a fleet. Tyland wasn't involved at all. Rhaena appears not to have been missed when she left her charges and her guards to head off into the wilderness, and is now wandering the Vale of Arryn searching for that wild dragon. For those who have missed the debate in the fandom on this, we are assuming that this is the dragon Sheepstealer, which in the books was claimed and ridden by a complete unknown named Nettles. Perhaps Nettles will appear in Season 3, but here we have Rhaena finding her dragon, and so we're left to assume that the show are merging her character with Nettles. If so, it's a decision that will have impacts later in the story, well beyond the end of the Dance of the Dragons. So the season ends. King's Landing's fall seems inevitable. Criston Cole leads his army north to Harrenhal with a heavy heart. He now seems to welcome his inevitable death, and they are joined by Aemond on Vhagar, basically abandoning King's Landing to its fate. Corlys tries to bond with Alyn, but Alyn seems to want none of it, mostly because he felt neglected by his father when young. This is a show-only thing. In the book, their mother was a canny businesswoman who inherited a shipyard and built a small fleet of ships. Alyn and Adam were hardly wanting for the next meal. There is at least some progress, though. The pretense that Alyn isn't Corlys's son is gone. Otto is still alive, in a prison cell somewhere. We only see him for a few seconds, though it's enough to tell us why he wasn't replying to those letters. We'll pick up on that next season, I'm sure. So we come to the closing montage. The Team Black Dragon Riders ready themselves to take King's Landing. The Hightower army is finally marching, and yes, that is Tessarion the Dragon overhead. The Winter Wolves cross the Green Fork River at the Twins, marching to battle. The Lannister army is moving again because Vhagar is now heading to the Riverlands too, supporting Criston Cole's army. Daemon's army is ready to move from Harrenhal. Corlys's ship is finally ready, but the Triarchy are now heading to the Narrow Sea to take him on. Expect all of this to come together in a series of bloody battles. Season 2 may have been the start of the war, but Season 3 will see it joined and taken to the next level. It will be brutal. I also cover The Lord of the Rings on this channel. If you're interested in that, there's a playlist in the middle of your screen now. Or if you're an A Song of Ice and Fire book person, there's a playlist on the left of your screen. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.